In this video, I'm going to be showing a couple examples of how to do the power reducing formulas. These three are the power reducing formulas, but I'm only going to be focusing on these two for this video. So first I have sine to the fourth x. Now, none of these formulas actually match this at all, but sine squared x is pretty close. What you usually do with these kind of questions and examples is you need to play a little bit with the algebra to get it into the right form. So sine to the fourth x, I could say, is sine squared x times sine squared x. Now, this expression is in this form, so I can use this power reducing formula twice on both sine squareds. And when I do that, I'm going to have 1 minus cosine 2x over 2, and another 1 minus cosine 2x over 2. Now I have this, I need to multiply it, but it might be easier to get rid of this fraction first. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these two 2's, and I'm going to get a 4. But since they're both in the bottom, it's going to be a fourth. So I'm going to take a 1/4 out, and I'm going to be left with 1 minus cosine 2x, 1 minus cosine 2x. And now I'm going to distribute the two parentheses together, and I'm going to end up with 1/4, 1 minus 2 cosine 2x plus cosine squared 2x. And now I got a cosine 2x. Don't really have a power reducing formula for that, but I have cosine squared 2x. I do have a power reducing formula for that. I have cosine squared x. Now what this means is whatever's in the x here is going to get doubled here. So since I have a 2x here, when I use this power reducing formula, this is going to become a 4x. So 1/4, 1 minus 2 cosine 2x plus 1 plus cosine 4x over 2. And from here, I'm going to look at that and say I can break these two up to 1 over 2 plus cosine 4x over 2. So I'm going to break these two up. So I'm going to just go straight down because I need the extra room. 1/4, 1 minus 2 cosine 2x plus a half plus cosine 4x over 2, like so. And then I can combine like terms, this 1/2 and this 1 here, and I'm going to end up getting 1/4 3/2 minus 2 cosine 2x. And I'll bring this 1/2 out as a coefficient. 1/2 cosine 4x. And then if I want, and I'm going to distribute this 1/4 to all the coefficients on the inside. So when I do that, I'm going to end up with 3/8 minus 1/2 cosine 2x plus 1/8 cosine 4x. And that would be the expanded out version just using the power reducing formulas for this expression. So for this one I used the sine squared power reducing formula and the cosine squared power reducing formula. Sometimes you use one, sometimes you use two. It all depends. Next we have cosine squared x, sine to the fourth x. Again, I have a cosine squared power reducing formula I can use, but I don't have a sine to the fourth power reducing formula. What I can do is use algebra to break this one up. So cosine squared x times sine squared x times sine squared x. And then these three, I can use the power reducing formula, and I'm going to end up getting 1 plus cosine 2x over 2, 1 minus cosine 2x over 2, and then 1 minus cosine 2x over 2. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor the 2's out. So 2 times 2 times 2 is going to give me an eighth. So 1/8, 1 plus cosine 2x, 1 minus cosine 2x, 1 minus cosine 2x. And now I'm going to distribute, and I'm going to do these two here. Since this is the difference of squares, it makes it a little bit easier to multiply together. And when I do that, I'm going to end up with 1 minus cosine squared 2x, 1 minus cosine 2x. And this again is a power reducing formula I can use. And again, it's going to give me 1 minus, and I'm going to be careful here because the minus, I'm going to use another parentheses. 1 plus cosine 4x over 2. Because it's a 4x because we have a 2x here, so it's essentially double to the next step. And then 1 minus cosine 2x. Now I'm going to distribute the negative and break this one fraction up into two fractions. So 1/8, 1 minus 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine 4x, 1 minus cosine 2x. And now that I have this, I'm going to combine the like terms here. So 1/8, 1 minus 1/2 is just 1/2, minus 1/2 cosine 4x, 1 minus cosine 2x. Now I haven't touched the second parentheses at all, but now I'm going to bring it into the fold. I'm going to distribute everything in these two parentheses together. And when I do that, I am going to get 1/2 minus 1/2 cosine 2x minus 1/2 cosine 4x, and then plus, because negative and a negative is a positive, 1/2 cosine 4x cosine 2x. And there is no like terms that we can combine on the inside. We can distribute the eighth in there if we want to. We can even factor out 1/2 if we want to. A couple of different ways you can go about that, but ultimately this is the answer using the power reducing formulas for this expression here.